Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with jazz pianist Oscar Rossignoli and bassist Matt Booth of the New Orleans trio Extended. They talk about their new 2022 CD, Without Notice. The band consists of Oscar on the keys, Matt on bass, and Brad Webb on drums. Each member writes equally for the band, drawing on their separate life experiences. Immediately after dropping their 2019 critically acclaimed sophomore release, they set to work assembling the material for Without Notice, an album full of twists and turns and surprises. It's their most musically adventurous album to date.
Hey, good, man. What's up, Oscar? Nice to talk to you again.
Nice to talk to you again, yeah.
Man, it is so nice to hear you cats talking about getting back out and live. There was such a black hole vortex for a while. It was, from my perspective, I'm sure it was magnified a million times for you, but to be like, all right, so what's going on? And there's like nothing, you know? I mean, there's recordings and stuff, but it's just, that's how you guys thrive. I mean, that's how we thrive as fans, is seeing you live. So it's so good. You know, I mean, people are going to Europe and packed houses, and I've ran into a couple things, this phenomenon where a couple musicians locally I've talked to have literally been like, there were so many people looking at me, I didn't know what to do with it because it had been so long. You know, it's like some weird psychological phenomenon that's new. Not that it's bad, but it's just like, wow, I got to get acclimated to having a lot of people in one room looking at me. So it's interesting. At any rate, before we begin here, just for context, I want to make sure that you two introduce yourselves so we have the voice pegged, since we're on a three-way and everybody knows who they're listening to as this interview goes on. So if you want to do that real quick, that would be great.
My name is Oscar Rossignoli, and I'm a pianist based in New Orleans.
And my name is Matt Booth, and I'm a bassist based in New Orleans.
Right on. Well, hey, gentlemen, thank you for taking a minute out for the show. I really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to talking to you about the project.
Yeah, us too.
Of course. Happy to talk to you again, man.
So, you know, the one thing about this, and we've kind of established up front, is that the world's opening up. We're on the back end of this pandemic. Musicians are getting out. How does it feel to be able to have an album out with the prospects of actually delivering it live to people?
It's really exciting. I mean, the album is also, you know, kind of a product of the last 2 years in a sense. We had been planning on recording it in May of 2020, and then, you know, the shutdown, everything kind of got put on hold. We postponed it by a few months and ended up preparing and rehearsing a lot more for a recording session than I probably ever have with any sort of project, because we just had so much time all of a sudden, for better or worse. But for this project in particular, we took full advantage of the newfound free time. Yeah, so the album is really, you know, it's like it was worked on all throughout the pandemic. You know, once we were done recording it, we were working on editing it and mixing it all over Zoom, and it's just sort of, and now it's finally out there. So it kind of, the full life of the album is tracks like right parallel to the pandemic.
Sorry, my bad.
That's okay.
I must have hit mute. But what I was saying was, so I'm sitting here thinking, man, was this not the right question? So, Without Notice has been billed as an album full of twists and turns and surprises. It's very adventurous. Talk to me a little bit about how you came to this juncture collectively and with this artistic statement on this album.
Well, I think, you know, like the beginning of Extended, we were focusing a little more on being able to create on the spot. So using more of like free improvisation as a vehicle. So we were not really focusing on what the arrangement of the songs, and we just had some very almost incomplete ideas, and we would just like try to make something with them on stage. And like Matt said, the fact that we could like almost micromanage every aspect of these compositions, that sent us to a different mentality of like, all right, let's just really think about what we can do with these songs compositionally and define them and find new ways of doing this. From my side as a pianist, it's always a fun challenge, I would say, to figure out how to orchestrate the compositions, you know, in my instrument. because Matt and Brad and even myself, sometimes I just write stuff not specifically for the piano. That, I think, forced us to take a little more risk and be a little more adventurous in what we do arrangement-wise. And I think that's what you hear in this album.
So you guys have been at this since 2016. That's quite a while. How has this union of all of you worked so well to make albums and to do what you do together?
I think it's really evolved in a exciting, natural way over the last 5 or 6 years. And like Oscar mentioned, when we started playing, it was definitely apparent that it was a good mix of people from the very first gig we played, and we would get together and everyone would bring songs in. So it very quickly became a collaborative effort to play original compositions of the three of ours. But like Oscar said, it's like we put a lot of focus on being in the moment and being spontaneous, and like I think a lot of our shows for the first year or two were probably overly excited, perhaps, on our part. We would just sort of, every song would get really big and epic and exciting, and we've really kind of focused over the last couple of years using dynamics more intentionally and just like picking our spots to get big and wild and crazy, and just, I don't know, just really taking the band sound as a whole more seriously and thinking about, you know, over the course of an album or over the course of a set live, like where are the big moments going to be? Where are the small moments going to be? Like just thinking about everything really clearly and focused. That's been a result of having played together for a number of years. That's not something that people usually go into, you know, the first year of working together and start thinking about stuff that detailed. So I think the fact that we've been together for a number of years, that we've, you know, this is now our third album, we're just so comfortable working together. We're able to like dig really deep into the music and the arrangements and like how we want to present stuff. And a lot of the songs are kind of ever evolving. Like even the songs that are on this new album, some of the older songs we'll come back to and continue to sort of rework and tinker with them. And, you know, I feel like a lot of the songs, it's never going to arrive at this moment where like, this is absolutely the version of this song. They're always going to kind of change and evolve.
You know, I am grooming an article for a local publication here called Jam Magazine. It's kind of our jazz Bible in Kansas City, and I'm doing an article on a band called the Back Alley Brass Band, and they're New Orleans flavored. It's 9 cats, and I was talking to them about creating that sound tailored to New Orleans, coming from another cradle in Kansas City, and how they do that, and how New Orleans influences the way they live in Kansas City and how audiences reply. And of course, you know, their sound is all about a party. It's all about good vibes and all of that. And I'm wondering, you know, you're obviously in New Orleans. You're obviously next to that epicenter. I wouldn't think it's something that's premeditated that you're trying to do. But how do you honor the history and legacy that is very deep and steep in New Orleans with what you do together as a collective?
Yeah, it's a great question, man. I think after spending some years living in New Orleans and playing all kinds of gigs, not just what we do, you know, modern stuff, but we all, Matt and I and Brad, we all have different kinds of gigs. Some of them are more traditional, a little more modern, but I think the essence, you know, what the rhythmic qualities of this music and the element that's in jazz, you know, the call and response, that way of communicating, I think that's present too, you know, and that comes from the New Orleans music. And even if we're not playing second lines, you know, exactly, but I think we have been deeply influenced by the sounds and the rhythms of the city.
You know, and speaking of live music, you know, New Orleans is one of those places that's infectious at any time of the year. I'm wondering, how are the crowds? What are you seeing from the crowds, and what are you hoping we're all going to get from returning to this live music environment?
Well, there's definitely been a lot of enthusiasm in New Orleans for live music. I mean, just as a baseline, no matter when we're talking about, there's always an enthusiasm for live music here because it's part of the culture, part of the everyday culture, not only for residents, but like for tourists. People come here from all over the world to seek out live music. It's like such an ingrained part of what the city has to offer in the history of the city. More recently, I mean, over the last 2 years, as things have ebbed and flowed with the shutdowns, there's been little peaks at stuff starting to reopen. I mean, there was a really exciting time, maybe like towards the end of 2020. It's a little hard to like keep the chronology straight, but when outdoor venues started kind of popping up, after the pandemic had been dragging on for a few months, people were just getting so tired of doing the live streams and whatnot. So, a lot of venues just sort of opened up these little sort of makeshift outdoor spaces for musicians to play. And that was a really exciting time here because both musicians were so psyched to play for audiences, whether they were large or small, and the people here were really excited to be able to see music, even if it was just like in front of a coffee shop at an intersection, like in a neighborhood. There was a lot of that stuff happening. It was really fun and exciting. And then even more recently, we just wrapped up, or sort of in the tail end of our spring festival season, which is the first time it's been able to happen since 2019. So we had French Quarter Fest and Jazz Fest, and it was more exciting than I had even anticipated. Just seeing all of the people in town that were excited to see music and have all these festivals back, there was just a real sort of exuberant feeling in the air around the city for those few weeks.
Man, for a moment I was very scared of the live streams and the playing from your home on a laptop become the new norm. It's like, oh man, I hope people realize instead like how much we need, that communication and that the community that live music creates.
The one thing too that I'm curious as a band, what are the plans for you guys? I know you guys have been together for a little while. Does this just ride on indefinitely, or what plans do you have for the band?
I would say riding on indefinitely sounds like a good plan. I mean, I wouldn't say we have any grand plans or schemes. It's like we just love playing together and have loved working on music together, so we're just going to keep doing that as much as we can, and hopefully more opportunities present themselves. We do all have, like Oscar mentioned, many other sort of performing obligations, and we all have a lot of other gigs, but this is definitely a big sort of creative focus of the three of ours, and we do have some touring lined up for the summer, and we're working on more. It's difficult for a number of reasons. Kind of one thing that we've been getting at with the return of live music, everybody is sort of like clawing at these opportunities to finally be able to get out and play and tour. So it is difficult to create opportunities for this project, especially as a piano trio. We really only want to be playing at venues that have pianos, and that kind of limits what we're able to do, but it's for the integrity of the music. And also just with how things are going currently with like fuel costs, it's tough to drive all around playing with the price of gas, and it's also tough flying around with the price of flights. Hopefully that stuff will kind of start to cool down. Yeah, we definitely intend on playing out where we can over the summer in support of this new album. And we've already got, I don't know, at least 6 new songs that we've worked on since this album's recording. So I don't think it would be far from the question if we recorded more next year, perhaps. that's kind of been, we've kind of recorded every other year. It's like every other year we'll record an album and then release it the following year. And it's, with all three of us as composers, it's pretty easy to generate new material. If each one of us writes 4 songs a year, we've got 12 songs,
So why does it work so well with you guys? What is it about the chemistry that you have that makes this band work so well?
Well, I think there are no judgments. Like we kind of trust each other with the ideas and what happens on stage. And maybe it's the fact that I don't know, I cannot put extended in like a specific style even. Because sometimes you have a band, I play with this band and we play mainly straight ahead. This is a band that plays mainly Latin music. Or, this is a jazz trio, a piano trio, sounds very, Herbie Hancock, or I don't know. But with extended, like, we don't know really. Like, it could go anywhere. And I think that excitement keeps the interest alive. And I think we're all, the three of us, in tune with wanting to explore more of this music and just live it all, on every performance. Also, we're really good friends. That helps a lot.
Yeah. So let's say you come to Kansas City, you perform live, and you have to come up with a way of describing a show to get people to come in and to watch the show. How would you do that?
That's a tough question. Those are always difficult questions to answer. It definitely, by nature of what we're doing, it falls under the umbrella of contemporary or modern jazz. But I think we are also, like Oscar and Brad studied classical music, so we're approaching it with some sort of like classical sensibility in letting the songs really kind of be evocative and be emotional, and there's not such a big emphasis on like individual technical virtuosity or anything. Like my perception of what the group is, it's really not that kind of jazz group. Like we're really trying to let the songs be sort of, a little bit more like cinematic or like mood pieces. I know I'm rambling a little bit for what should be like a direct answer to your question, but I would also say that the shows are exciting. People seem to really respond to this band, and people that aren't necessarily jazz fans. But the way that we play together, it's like you can see as an audience member how much fun we're having playing with each other, and I think that that's infectious. Like when we're on stage, it's not this like super serious kind of scholastic jazz. We're really having fun playing together, and I think that transcends like the stage, and the audience can really feel that enjoyment that we're having.
Yeah, and I think it's very likely that if you come to see us, you're gonna see us having fun and just trying to make something out of this music different every night, and hopefully it's something that you haven't heard before, like sounds that you haven't heard before.
Gentlemen, hey, thank you for opening up. I appreciate it. Good luck with the album and the return to the stage.
Thank you, Joe. Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks for talking to us.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview. We give you a bit of insight into the finest players in New Orleans, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. And thanks to both Oscar and Matt for their time, music, and story. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino in the iTunes Store. Visit neonjazz at youtube.com, and for everything Neon Jazz, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. And finally, for everything Joe Domino related, go to joedomino.com, and there you can contribute to the Neon Jazz cause through Patreon or PayPal. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.